Alright, I'm out here again. I'm putting a radio in my wife's El Camino. I got a 4 6x9 box, go behind the seat. I got a custom auto sound radio, digital, got 4 recorded FM stereo. It'll go right in the dash. She didn't want her dash cut up. That was $200, so I mean I could have bought a cheaper one, but that's the only one that I didn't have to cut the dash. I got 4 Hyphonics 6x9s. I've got some thick wire, and I got a 1000-watt 4-channel amp, and I've mounted it to this wood board so I can take it in and out, and also if it can't move around short, so it's going to go back in here. And I got all the wires ran under the seat, boring stuff. And I'm going to show you how I make this. I ran a ground all the way back from the battery, so we're not going to have any grounding issues. And I bought a amplifier wiring kit, so I got 4-aught cable to come up here. I'll show you how I hook that up to the battery. And we're getting close now. I got to get under the dash too. So I bought 6-foot long battery cable. I'm gonna cut this end off with a pair of dikes, wire cutters, what do you want to call them. Cut the end off, and use a razor knife to cut that back. And then I'm going to put another end on and bolt these together. There's already one bolted together under the seat, and I pulled another ground to ground the dash, and I've grounded the firewall. So Harbor Freight sells this crimper. You got to buy the eyelets separate. But Harbor Freight sells this crimper, and the only thing bad about it is, you know, I'm crimping like 2-aught cable instead of 0-aught, so everything's off by 1 on the dies, but other than that you just find the dies that fit. But this thing's like $50, and it gives you really good crimped ends on that wire. That wire's not coming off there. So that's how I make all my ends. It's just a cheap tool, Chinese tool, works really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this, and then I'm going to bolt them together and tape it again, and then I'll have a major ground ran all the way back to my amp. Alright, so you can see how it's taped up there, not to cause arcing, you know, underneath the carpet or anything. So I'm going to tuck that ground wire back under the carpet, and I got everything wire tied to come out. And I got all my speaker wires here, and they're all labeled. You know, channel 1, 2, 3. So I can wire them up to the box. Because the box, I put these mounts up using factory holes. And I'm going to put the box in there and then screw that down. It'll cover all this up. Alright, I went to Walmart and I bought this speaker wire because I didn't really like what came in the kit or with the speakers. So larger wire is better. You know, you just won't it'll be able to hold all the current or not make as much noise or whatever. So I got 14 gauge wire, and I went to O'Reilly's and I bought a bunch of these male spade connectors, and I'm going to make up all the speaker mounts now. So I'm going to put all the speakers into this box that I bought. So the box was 60 or 70, I think it was $80. It says made in China on it. But it comes already preformed. It fits in there really well. It was off eBay, and the speakers were off eBay. They were $72 or something delivered. So we're going to put our cheap speakers in with our cheap box, and we're going to make it wired up to that amp now. Alright, so I got crimpers here, and I crimp them so that they will not come off. And now I'm going to electrical tape. And then I'll make all the 4 sets up to go in there. Alright, so you can see I'm electrical tape now, and that connector is not coming off that wire. That's the worst thing I see with people that do these installs is they don't make sure these connections are tight. So I physically check them. I pull the shit out of them trying to get them to come off. They won't. So once you do this, you know, and you got, you know, good size wire, good connections, they're not going to come off. It'll make for a long-lasting sound system. So I'm going to make these up and then get the speakers in and mount them to the box. Alright, I got all the cables made. And I made them long enough so that you can pull the speakers out if you have a problem. And look in there. You don't want them real short. So, and I made them all the same length. Some people say that matters on all these wires, so the amplifier distributes correctly. So I just do that. I don't know if it's true or not. So I use the drill, and I've screwed them down, and I'm gonna put the other speakers in here in a second. And then I just pop the metal cover off, and it'll just pop back on there. You know, hide the screws and the speaker and everything. So I'm gonna get this box made and mounted, and I'll get it set up in the car. Well, I got the speaker box all put together. Now I'm gonna put it inside, make the connections to the back, and then work on the radio. Okay, I got the speaker box mounted in here. I did have to drill this hole in there to put this bracket on. The other two go for that door. It's supposed to cover that area I put the amp in, but it's in there and it looks clean. So the speakers and the amplifier mounted. Just need to go forward and put that dash unit in, and then wire up everything in the battery. Okay, I got this big brick of a AM factory radio that wasn't even wired out. And I got the new AM FM radio installed. I got it all wired up. What I've done is I've come off, there's an AC and there's a battery and an AC, and I've come off and I put fuses in. And I've come over and wired to the radio. The factory antenna that's in the window for these I wasn't able to use. I had to use a remote antenna, but I've got it all wired up now. I'll show you the antenna. So there's the antenna. It just sticks on there with 3M tape. It's not really noticeable, but I don't know if my factory window, because see that those strips in there, that's where the factory antenna was. So I don't know if that is actually broken or it just won't work with this radio. Alright, so out here I pulled the power off and I made an aluminum bracket that bolted onto the fender, so I've drilled no holes for that. And I got this 4-aught to a 150 amp circuit breaker, so that can be tripped over and over again. It's just better than a fuse. At least you got a second shot. But 150 amps, it just, if this cable was to go to a ground somewhere, it'll keep me from burning the car down. So I've come off with a ground wire, and I've grabbed the alternator ground, and I've come back and I've grabbed the body ground, which is also the rear engine ground. And they both go through the firewall through grommets. Inside the firewall and the ground, this ground runs all the way back to the amp of this 4-gauge style. And then also I come off of it, and where the radio is in the inside, it goes up to the bottom of the dash with a 14-gauge wire. So everything is grounded really, really well. And I have sufficient power that if she ever does let me, she didn't want this modified at all. I had to drill one hole to mount the box back there. She didn't want any modifications at all, but she wanted a radio that was AM FM. So we had to drill one hole just for that 6x9 box in the back. So everything here is, but if she lets me, I can put a bigger stereo, 10s or 8 amplifier and another 1,000 watt amplifier and some subwoofers and get this thing really hitting. But that's not what she wanted. She didn't want a radio very loud, and we'll go in there and test it out now. Alright, so I got it. Turn it to accessory. Comes on and it's got this digital face that comes on, and turn it on and off, and the radio works, and she's already approved it. So anyway, I think I got like 2 days in this. Got like 2 days in this. And oh, happy wife, happy life. If you like this kind of stuff, check back in. Have a nice day. Yeah, so I forgot to show you, I've got an auxiliary cord coming out here through the ashtray, and I'm able to, run an MP3 player or iHeartRadio on my phone through the auxiliary. So right now I got some bluegrass music going. So yep, so I can run a phone through iHeartRadio here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but iHeartRadio through a cord goes through I'm pulling it out of so I just close it up in the ashtray. Nobody here smokes, so it doesn't matter. But I also have, I can run an MP3 player, or she can run something other than radio. Alright, have a nice day.